Welcome back to the program. So real quick, this weekend I didn't get a chance to put all those videos up that I wanted to, so I'm probably going to start either late tonight or I'll be doing it this week during the days, Monday, Tuesday, what have you. Wednesday or Thursday of this week is when the website is going to be no more. I'm going to have everything switched over around that time. But I wanted to just talk about what happened, I guess, today. There was a horrific arsonist that basically torched Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania's governor's mansion. And I'll put some pictures together in a thumbnail to show you. It was pretty bad, really bad. It happened on Passover while him and his family were sleeping around 2 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, really crazy. I'm glad to hear that the governor is okay, obviously. I don't agree with him politically, but I certainly wouldn't want anything bad to happen, to him. But yeah, they caught the person who did it. His name is Cody Balmer. He's a 38-year-old. Basically looks like a communist, white male, but a communist. Of course, the media is not talking about much about him. They're even trying to paint him as some type of right-leaning extremist. But from everything that I can gather, this guy Cody is definitely on the left. I mean, even some of the things that he put on X kind of show you that this guy is definitely on the left. Number one, he's wearing a mask. He's always wearing a mask. He looks emaciated with his goatee and long beard, and he's wearing a hoodie. And he has a picture that says, "Be the light you want to see in the world," and it's a Molotov cocktail. Okay? So these people that are running around saying, "Oh, this guy's on the right and this and that," he's clearly not. Here's another text message, and again, some of this stuff is going to be taken down because they're going to try to hide it, but this was on X, not on other social media, so X is not going to take it down like the other ones would. But it says he was talking to someone. He said, "I'm okay with watching the world burn." Arsonist uses the word burn. A little strange there. Then he says, this is him admitting this, "I'm a registered socialist. So I have gotten about 27 mail-in ballots." So he's also basically saying that he has conducted voter fraud in the state of Pennsylvania. Maybe we can add that on to arson, attempted murder, and how many other charges that he's had. So he says that he got 27 mail-in ballots. "I got to vote for everyone twice, and I voted none of the above in person. Plus, I cast a few votes for my favorite cartoon characters." You think anyone on the right would do that? No, of course not. Okay? This guy is a true socialist leftist. Now, some people are talking about him and they're saying, well, was this an attack because Shapiro is Jewish? Well, it happened on Passover, so yeah, I would assume that it is. But there's also some other things that we're hearing in which he might have had a property seized from him, and this might have been retaliation for that against the governor. But more of his social media: stop being Democratic or Republican, be a socialist. Let's see. "Do you realize this country just pulled $6.2 trillion out of its ass without blinking, but said we'd go broke providing health care as a right?" So again, he's probably another one of the Luigi Mangione idiots. And then he's just got like a whole bunch of other memes and stuff like that. So he's definitely on the left from what I'm seeing. Here's another one he put out. "Sadly, there are Christians more committed to the Second Amendment than they are to the Second Commandment." So he's a gun-grabbing idiot as well. So anyway, there's a lot of information on him. But this is the part that I wanted to talk about, this sheriff's sale. So apparently, he was angry at a property being seized and auctioned. So let's see, there was a sheriff's sale for a mortgage foreclosure. issued in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania. Gee, isn't that the same county where Butler is? I think it is. I don't know Pennsylvania that well, but I think it is. Let's see. So it looks like he had a property that was foreclosed upon as well. So there's some interesting things going on. I think the story is, there's still probably a lot more to this story than that meets the eye. But it's interesting that the media hasn't really said much about it. They just called him an arsonist. They didn't want to identify the fact that he's a socialist, that he's a communist sympathizer, that he's more than likely pro-Palestinian. He's probably anti-Semitic. He had a beef with his house being foreclosed upon. And again, he is a left-wing radical. But those are the things that the media doesn't want you to know. And that's why I'm telling you. So we'll see what happens. The other thing was ICE has arrested a Chinese spy in New Jersey. You know, the best thing about what ICE is doing is not only gathering up these illegal alien criminals all over the place, but they're also recognizing Chinese nationals, okay? And there's so many of these CCP spies, if you will, all around, not just in New Jersey and New York, but Los Angeles, probably Arizona, Texas for sure, North Carolina. They are spread throughout the country because Biden allowed them to come on in. Many of them were dressed, you know, in nice clothes. They were talking on cell phones. They basically had nice luggage. They're wheeling luggage into the United States. These are not disheveled Chinese dissidents that are starving, that are poor, that are being persecuted by their government. No, they were sent here by the CCP, okay? That's a fact. And there's probably, if I had to guess, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, at least 130,000 to maybe as many as 300,000. And so the good thing is that ICE is starting to locate these people and is arresting them and or deporting them. And they found a whale, is what I would consider this person. So let's see. On March 24th, ICE enforcement and removal operations in Newark arrested 61-year-old Ming Zhang, a Chinese citizen who had been living in Montgomery Township, New Jersey. Zhang, who reportedly operated under the nickname Sushi John, now remains in ICE custody as deportation proceedings move forward. ICE officials say that Zhang initially entered into the United States lawfully in June of 2000 through Los Angeles International Airport. However, his legal status was ultimately compromised after he violated the terms of his admission and was found guilty of a series of federal offenses. On April 30th, 2024, the U.S. District Court for the District of New Jersey sentenced Zhang to 3 years of probation after convicting him of illegally acting as an agent of a foreign government, in this case, the Communist Chinese. The conviction confirms Zhang's clandestine operations on behalf of the CCP, raising serious concerns about national security and foreign influence. And then it goes to say, Zhang met with Chinese security officials in the Bahamas in 2016 and delivered $35,000 in an unnamed individual in New Jersey, according to NewJersey.com. He also admitted to twice hosting a Chinese government CCP agent at his Princeton, New Jersey home that fall. He's being held at the Elizabeth Detention Center, awaiting immigration proceedings. A worker at his restaurant told the Post on Saturday, so apparently at a sushi restaurant, more like as a front, okay? And so he's basically doing the bidding for the CCP. That's just one example. There are hundreds and thousands more just like him. And that's the danger. So let's hope that ICE continues to find these people and round them up. I think President Trump, to retaliate against China, ought to just issue a blanket statement that says, we are going after Chinese-owned businesses. We are going after Chinese businesses, especially next to military installations and military bases. And we're going to go after, whether they own restaurants, whether they own movie theaters, whether they own real estate. It doesn't matter. And then we're going to remove them and extract them from our colleges and our universities, especially our research centers. We're going to get rid of the 1,000 Talents program. We're going to get rid of the Confucius Institutes. And we are going to raid these schools and make sure that these kids are not learning from our scientists, taking our intellectual property, stealing it, and going back to the CCP where they can share that information with their comrades and, of course, the People's Liberation Army, which would also connect them to the Wuhan lab and many other labs and the Bat Lady and everything else. And the next thing you know, they're creating bioterrorism, and they are taking and extracting what we taught them here in American schools, and now they're using it in China to create horrible viruses, bioterrorism, to take over the world and destroy the world. So I think President Trump ought to just raid these colleges and universities, Chinese-owned businesses, and when they find out that these people are not legal and they own these businesses, see you later. You got to go. So we'll see what happens. ICE needs to continue to do their job. Now, let's talk about this Kilmar Abrigo Garcia, okay? This is the media is trying to call him a darling. They're calling him, just a father, just a nice guy, just a neighborhood fellow, right, that has children, and he's married, and he goes to PTA meetings, and him and his wife are a regular Ozzie and Harriet, right? This is what these lying prostitutes in the media are trying to say about this gang member from MS-13. So where is he now? Well, he's in El Salvador in a holding retention facility. That's where he is right now. From what I understand, he's not in Cocotte, which is the really bad prison. Apparently, if he goes in there, he's not going to make it because he's wanted by the prisoners inside for, telling on them, for ratting on them, for whatever. He's a rival of some of their gangs, so he would not be safe if he was in those prisons. I could care less, honestly. I think Bukele in El Salvador, he ought to just say, oops, he had an accident. I don't know how he fell down those flight of stairs and slipped on a blade. I have no idea, but he ought to have an accident and just get rid of him completely. But here's the other part of this. The Supreme Court and these judges and this judge, whatever her name is, she even has like a Chinese name, actually. What is her name? Some idiot judge. Zenas? Paula Zenas with an X, right? She thinks that she can dictate to the Trump administration what they do with their immigration. She cannot. She doesn't have the jurisdiction, okay? Now, the Supreme Court stepped in, and they did a 9-0 decision for one reason and one reason only. They said that there was an administrative error. And because of this, quote, administrative error, he ended up going to El Salvador. So when they did the 9-0 decision, that's what it was based on. They never would have done that if there wasn't a, quote, administrative error. But here's the other part of that. The Supreme Court, you don't have any jurisdiction. The guy's in El Salvador. What jurisdiction do you have in El Salvador, Supreme Court? Close your eyes, what do you see? Exactly, none. Okay? So the fact that he's there, that's it. He doesn't have to technically come back. They don't have to fly him back. They could say, well, we don't know what happened to him. He's in El Salvador. What jurisdiction do you have? None whatsoever. Okay? So that's what I think he ought to do. And hell, not just him. Send all these gang members to El Salvador. Who cares what the courts do? They can't do anything. They don't have jurisdiction. A court in America cannot dictate what happens in another country. It doesn't happen that way. So if he was here in America, yes, different story. Jurisdiction. I get it. But he's not. He's in El Salvador already. So we'll see what happens. Maybe, he just has an accident. and the case is closed. We'll have to see. All right. The other thing I wanted to play, this one last thing, is this guy, Harry Enton, right? You know him, right? From CNN. All during the election, he was talking about just how Trump was doing so well and he was going to crush her and this and that. And of course, that's exactly what happened. Well, he has a new one here that is pretty interesting. Some of the things that he's talking about. So I'm going to play this real quick here.
This, to me, is one of the most shocking pieces of poll data that I truthfully have seen this year, or maybe in any prior year.
Really?
Yes, really, because I want you to take a look. Cares more about the needs.
Okay, so it says, cares more for the needs of people like you. And it says 1994, the Democrats were leading that plus 19. In 2005, they were leading it plus 23. In 2017, they were leading it plus 13. And now they say it's tied.
For people like you. You mentioned it, Kate Ball. We got a tie, even after this tariff war had already started, split between Democrats and Republicans on how people feel which party cares more for needs of people like you. And why is that so surprising? Because I want you to take a look at prior years. Democrats always lead on this question. Back in 2017, before the 2018 midterms, 13-point lead. 2005, a 23-point lead for Democrats. 1994, which was a big Republican year, a 19-point lead for Democrats. And now, all of a sudden, a tie? All of a sudden, the Democrats, who are the party of the people, no more. We get a tie on this question, on a question that has traditionally overwhelmingly been a Democratic advantage. Which party cares more for the needs of people like you? It's truly something I would not have expected to see, especially after this tariff war had begun.
Where does it show?
Let me explain why. It's very simple. The American people trust President Trump. The left doesn't. They hate him, right? We know that. That's fine. But the people that are paying attention, especially people that own businesses, small businesses, things like that, middle America, people that are not entrenched in the political sphere, that are constantly looking at the news and this and that, they voted for him because they want this type of monumental change. And they understand that how bad it was the last 4 years. What this shows me is they're not blaming Trump for how bad things are right now. And they're giving him the leeway and the ability to fix it all. So in other words, because it's early, they're not turning on him because they understand what needs to be done. They understand short-term pain for long-term gain. They get it.
Show that Republicans are making them.
So then the prostitute comes in and she tries to say, well, wait a minute, what about blah, 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 blah. So here you go.
Where does it show that Republicans are making the most gains?
Yeah, again, you talk about party of the people. Look at this. Cares for the needs of people like yourself. Look here, we got non-college, we got those with a college degree.
So in 2017, non-college cares for the needs of people like you. Non-college people in 2017 was Democrat plus 7. With people with a college degree, it was Democrat plus 18. Now, in 2025, non-college is Republican plus 9.
Among those with a college degree.
But the Democrat with the college degree is still plus 18. So what does that really mean? It means the more they are indoctrinated in these left-wing communist Marxist institutions of non-higher learning, and instead being indoctrinated to love and embrace communism and hate your country, the more you're going to become a Democrat, number one. And number two, the more you are going to think that your Marxist professor who told you that the Constitution is an inherently racist document that needs to be burned and thrown away and start over with a new left-leaning document that's breathing and can be changed over time, right? This is their whole mantra on what they think. Those people are still stuck where they are. Why? Because they're being indoctrinated by these left-wing universities. So, what's the key? Get them out. Get your children out of these universities, especially the Ivy League schools.
It's the same score. 8 plus 18 points for Democrats in 2017, plus 18 points for Democrats now. But look among non-college voters. Look here. It was plus 7 for Democrats in 2017, and now Republicans had overwhelmingly gained.
It goes to show you, if we can keep our youth out of these colleges, Charlie Kirk's correct, college is a scam. You'd be better off going to a trade school. You go to a trade school for less time. You don't have all the student loan debts and everything else. You get out there, you gain a skill, and then you start working in that field. And eventually, if you do really well, you open up your own business in that field, right? So it's proof in the pudding. If you send your kid to college, more than likely they're going to come out a communist, Marxist, revolutionary. If you skip college and you go to the trade schools, they're not going to have been inundated with indoctrination from Marxism and leftist professors in colleges, and instead they're going to become Republican. They're going to be conservative. They're going to love America. They're going to believe, in lower taxes, lower spending. They're going to believe in small businesses, create the jobs, not the government. They're going to be better Americans.
Plus 9 points. That is, the gains have been concentrated, at least within the last decade, among voters without a college degree. The working class. That is where Republicans have gained even since the beginning of the Donald Trump administration. The Democratic base is now those with a college degree. Among the working class, those without a college degree, Republicans have overwhelmingly gained on this all-important question of which party cares more for people like yourself.
Your reference points are, as you were pointing out, just before a midterm election. So obviously, let's kind of look at that. Where do things stand for the fight for Congress?
Right. Okay. So you have this question, right? And then there's the question, ultimately, are Republicans going to get punished in this midterm election, in part because that's normally what happens, the party in power gets punished, but also because of this tariff war. And I want you to take a look here at the generic congressional ballot. Where we were in April of 2017, Democrats were already ahead by 7 points. In November of 2024 on this question, it was a tie, and then, of course, Republicans won control. Where are we now? It's Democrats, but just by a point. This looks very much still like what we saw in 2024, not like what we saw in 2017. If Democrats think they automatically have a ticket back to control of the House, I'd say, hold on a second, Republicans still have a real shot at this, despite all of Trump's theatrics over the last month with this tariff war.
That really is interesting information coming out in this that you're pulling out. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you. I think it's interesting. Kate agrees.
For once.
For once.
So what does that mean? It means that the American people trust President Trump, that they feel the same way now as they did when they elected him a few months back. And more importantly, if the quote-unquote advantage is +1 for Democrats, after all the things that have been going on with the economy and the ups and the downs and the trades and this and the tariffs and that, well, guess what? As soon as this starts showing the fruits of its labor, they're going to get crushed in the midterms. Assuming that we bring money into the economy, which we are, and we start seeing the fruits of those labors in the markets going up, people not having to have second and third jobs. The American people know that this economy is not Trump's economy, okay? It's too early. It was Biden's fake auto pen economy. And so right now, they understand that, and they're giving them time. But I will say this with some caution. If we're not going to start to see results in the next 4 to 5 months, these numbers are going to get worse and worse and worse for Republicans in the midterms. So we better hope and pray that this thing gets turned around and gets turned around quick. And I think it will. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.